Right, let's start with what could be a vital point for Leeds. They're now 5 points clear of 18th placed Burnley after drawing with Crystal Palace, but it's not quite time to celebrate. They have some very tricky fixtures between now and the end of the season. So no goals in the end. Important point for Leeds. They're now 5 points clear of the bottom three.
You know, we as a group were a little bit disappointed overall with our performance, but I think we have to look at the positives and say it's 2 clean sheets in a row. It's a big point that gets us closer to our ultimate goal. Having a team that's more stable and doesn't give away big chances. It was a night where we bend, but we don't break. So we still have a lot of work to do in order to get better and better, but the guys are disappointed, but in the end, we know the point was valuable.
The satisfaction is the performance of the team, and I think the way we perform today show that we will be playing every single game as the best as we can. I think we show it today, and that is what I want from the players. And you know, again, another day we will score those goals. You know, but again, the performance was something that I wanted, and I get it from the players, and I'm really pleased and really happy.
And there we go. Welcome, Paul. Welcome, Paul. Marvellous to have you both. Paul Robinson, let's come to you first of all. As we said, now 5 clear of the bottom three. How big a point was this?
It was, Robbie, especially when you look at the fixtures. I know we're going to look at the fixtures in a little while. They've only got 5 games to go, 3 huge games coming up. And I mean, if you put that Crystal Palace game in front of those games that they've got coming up, it's a really tough run of games for them. They'd be disappointed with only a point the way that they played. It'll be a game that they've been looking for 3 points because that gap has really closed up. Obviously, Burnley made a huge decision a couple of weeks ago, and they've put a run of games together and they've got some points together. And that gap is, you know, it's 5 points now. But then I'm sure Leeds would have liked it to have been a little bit further. The performance, the 2 clean sheets in a row, there's a lot of positives that they can take for that. And you look at the 3 teams that it's between, Leeds, Everton and Burnley, obviously for that 3rd place to go down. I think Leeds are the ones in form at the moment. You know, Leeds and Burnley are the ones that are picking up points.
Yeah. Mr. Dickov, good morning to you. What have you made of the impact of Jesse Marsch and what he's done on this side?
Yeah, I think he's done excellent, you know, and Paul will tell you, I think having Liam Cooper back in the team the last couple of games is massive, you know, club captain, centre-half, and kept back-to-back clean sheets now. Kalvin Phillips for me is massive. But they just look a lot more organised than what they were under Bielsa. We all know Bielsa ball, man for man all over the pitch. It left them really, really open at times, but they look a lot more solid now. And, you know, Rafinha, who I think is a wonderful player, I think they'll have more than enough to get out of it. You know, that was a big point last night. You know, and in these last sort of 4 or 5 games that they've got, that point could be invaluable. But I look at Leeds' squad, I look at the players they've got, as I said, especially Kalvin Phillips coming back in, who's integral to what they do. I'm pretty confident that Leeds will have enough to get out with the games they've got left.
Paul Robinson, Kalvin Phillips, I guess most people will look at, made his first start in 4 months. The timing of this, how key is it?
Yeah, both him and Liam Cooper coming back into the team at the same time. They've been a big miss all season. Kalvin's been key to everything that Leeds do for a long, long time. And there's 2 players that they really struggle without, and it's Kalvin Phillips and Patrick Bamford. They haven't got direct replacements. They've tried different personnel in those positions, and they've tried to play different systems when these players don't play. But Kalvin's that important to what Leeds do. I mean, you saw his performances in an England jersey. He was England Player of the Year last year, and that shows the level that he's reached. And obviously any team is going to miss him. But playing the formation that Leeds do, he's key to what they do. He provides that shield in front of the back 4. Defensively, Leeds, you look at the amount of goals that they've conceded this season, more so under Marcelo Bielsa. The goals, again, for record, was terrible. And there's no coincidence that since Liam Cooper and Kalvin Phillips have come back into the side, they've started keeping clean sheets again, which is vitally important at this stage of the season.
Yeah, let's stay with you, Paul Robinson, because you mentioned the fixtures here. Let's have a little look at that run-in. OK, every football fan up and down the country, if their teams are involved at the top or the bottom, are looking at these things, trying to do calculations. What do they need to get out of this lot in order to survive?
Well, I think you look at the Manchester City and the Chelsea games at home, Arsenal away, you don't know what Arsenal are so unpredictable. That's a winnable game. And we've seen Arsenal win the last 2 games on the bounce, so that's going to be a difficult game. City at home, it's that they're not going to be season-defining games. you've got to pick points up in other games. The manager, as a fan, as a player, you look at the fixtures that you've got left, where you think you're going to pick up points. Manchester City is a bonus at home, if they get anything from that game. But the performance last night that they've got showed that they are capable of getting something. If they take a draw against Manchester City, it's a massive result. If they get a draw at Arsenal, it's a big result. They've just got to concentrate on keeping that point gap between them and the teams below them, which they're capable of doing. I think defensively, they've shown that's one thing that really has changed under Jesse Marsch. At the end of Marcelo Bielsa's reign, they were conceding far too many goals. Yes, they were losing games, but it was the way that they were losing games. They were looking like, once they'd conceded one, it was going to be 3 or 4. Defensively, that they were woeful. But under Jesse Marsch, that's changed. And keeping clean sheets is vitally important, especially when they've got these next 3 fixtures. I mean, the beginning of the season, like I said, they're not season-defining games. You wouldn't earmark those games as points in the bag for them. But they've got to come out of that. If they can come out of that run of games with 4 points, it would be an incredible achievement. If they can come out with 1 point and solid performances going into the last 2 games, it's going to be difficult for them. On paper, you look at the next 3 fixtures, it's a very, very difficult time for Leeds.
Yeah. Paul Dickov, let's come to you there. Yeah, 5 points above Everton, who have a game in hand. 3 points above Burnley, but it's that goal difference as well, isn't it? Leeds goal difference significantly worse. So are they looking at those last 2 games, and would that be 3 points from that, 2 points from that, 6 points from that? What might they need?
I think they're probably the remaining games, Rob. Manchester City, obviously Arsenal, Chelsea, the next 3 games are going to be really difficult for them. If they could pick up anything out of their games, it would be a huge bonus. Especially Manchester City are playing with Arsenal, playing Chelsea, hitting a bit of form again. So it's going to be difficult in the games. The fact that 2 of the 3 games are at Ellen Road with the fans behind them will give them a slight little chance. But then I look at the Brighton games and Brentford games, the last 2 games of the season. If they can pick up 6 points out of the last 2. But if they don't pick up points in the next 3 games and they're leaving it to the last 2 games, the pressure, the nerves and everything else is going to really be on them. But it's so difficult at this stage of the season, whether it's at the top or the bottom, to predict what's going to happen. I still think there'll be curveballs at the top and at the bottom before we go. And obviously Everton, Burnley, winning the last couple of games. They've got Watford coming up as well, so they'll be looking at that to get another 3 points to put the pressure on Leeds and Everton as well. So it's so hard to call, but I just get a feeling, looking at the Leeds' last 5 games, that the first 3 that they've got, Manchester City, Arsenal, Chelsea, so it's going to be difficult for them to get anything out of that.
Paul Robinson, will they be playing Premier League football next season?
I think they will, but I don't think it's going to be as easy as people think it is. A couple of weeks ago, when they had the points gap between them and the bottom 3, you're thinking they've done it and they're safe. But then anything can happen. You look at the run that Burnley have gone on. You look at the points they've amassed in the last week. If Everton can do that, it changes things again. There's 5 games to go for Leeds, 6 games to go for Everton. Listen, their destiny's in their own hand. But like Paul just said then, Leeds' next 3 games, very, very tough. If they can get something out of that, take momentum into the last 2 games, the last 2 games take on a completely different twist. If they lose the next 3 games, hypothetically, if they lost the next 3 games, all of a sudden that gap is 1 point, or it's minimal. There's no points. They're in the bottom 3. Those last 2 games, the pressure on those 2 games take on a completely different level. I mean, yes, you look at Brighton, Brentford games where you would look to take points, and you think, no disrespect to them, but compared to their next 3 games, those 2 games are winnable games. But they take on a whole new level of nervousness, concentration, attitude towards the game. The last 2 games, if Leeds need to get 4 points from 2 games, regardless of who you're playing, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be an interesting run-in.
Yeah, perception is an interesting thing, Paul Dickov, isn't it, in football? Because Crystal Palace are actually only 4 points better off than Leeds. Is it down to the fact that Patrick Vieira had a total restructuring, a different approach to playing football at Palace that has made people think that they have made such progress? And do you think they have? And if so, what will they be targeting next season?
Yeah, I do think they have. I think Patrick's done a wonderful job. He's changed the way they've played. And we all know under Roy Hodgson and previous managers, they were a lot more defensive than what they are now. They look to play a lot longer than what they do. Patrick's come in and completely changed the whole outlook of the club from top to bottom. The attacking flair they've got in the team. Conor Gallagher, obviously Zaha, Mateta, Edward was up on the bench last night, couldn't get on. Elise wasn't involved. Eze's came back in. Jordan Ayew. So going forward, they've got some really talented players, and I think Patrick wants to utilise that. You know, we spoke before about him starting his managerial and coaching career at Manchester City under the influence of the City Football Group, and you can tell that the way that they play, that's had a big effect on him. He's just not a great guy, Patrick. You know, he's a fantastic coach. I've seen him work close at hand when he was at the academy at Manchester City, and he wants to play an attacking style of football. But with that, it takes a little bit of time for that to happen. You know, and as you say, perception is they've probably done better than what they should have done. But I think the inconsistency in trying to transform how they play and transform the whole football club as well is why they're probably lower than what they should be. But going forward, I think they've got some fantastic young talent going into next season, and they'll be looking to really push up the table. You know, they came close in the semi-final to Chelsea, so a cup might be in their agenda as well. But you know, the squad looks a lot more balanced, and I really like the way that Patrick's trying to get his teams to play.